What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the HNE podcast. This is episode 3. I'm your host, Nick, and as always, I'm joined by James.
Hi, DeLeo Neighborino. It's good to be back for episode Trace.
Yes, and we don't have Aaron or Michael this episode, but we have Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
I guess moving on to our final topic, this is something that people are not very excited by, and that's the fact that Spidey is leaving the MCU, apparently, or at least as far as we know right now, it looks like he's not going to be involved with the MCU. Kevin Feige and Tom Holland have both come out and made statements and just basically been like, yep, it's over, we had 5 years of fun, but now we're moving on to other things. And then there was a lot of finger pointing over the past week. Sony came out and basically threw Disney under the bus and was like, well, they wanted too much money and Feige's too busy with X-Men now. They came up with every excuse basically to just try and pin the blame on Disney, but it's a pretty complicated situation all around. But I don't know, I'm of two minds on this, where it's like, one, it sucks, yes, that he's leaving and all those characters are probably not going to cross over anytime soon, but at the same time, it could be interesting to see Spider-Man movies outside of the MCU again, because I don't know, I really like Spider-Man 2, the old Sam Raimi movie, and I like elements of the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, even though the movies are kind of just a mess. But I kind of like when Spider-Man's on his own, because he just has more conflict or something. I don't know, could be interesting. And then you obviously have Venom and Morbius, which who knows what's going to happen there. But James, what are your thoughts on the whole Spidey thing?
It's a shame, but at the same time, part of me says I don't think this is permanent. I think, I somehow have this feeling that, out of the blue, they're going to come up with some deal that reverses the decision that allows Tom Holland to stay in the MCU. And going back to the movies, that Tom Holland Spidey was in by himself, Homecoming and Far From Home. Okay, we can't really divorce those from the MCU, because they throw in so many elements, from the Avengers and other MCU films. So if they were to make, a follow-up, but under Sony brand, how are they going to address, Sony makes another Spider-Man movie, still with Tom Holland. Mm-hmm. We can't have Jon Favreau in it anymore.
Happy Hogan.
Yeah, no more Happy Hogan, no more mention of Iron Man.
Wasn't he dating Aunt May? Is she just gonna be he left, I guess.
Yeah, no mention of Iron Man. I don't
Venom
really.
Now, though.
Well, yeah, we do have Venom, but one of the main themes, of Tom Holland's Spidey was Iron Man. Yeah. Tony Stark, being this father figure to him.
Oh man, why did they make Tony his Uncle Ben, dude? Oh man. That makes so many issues now going forward.
Yeah, and if you do go forward, can you even mention Tony Stark? I feel that's one of the driving things of Spider-Man. Yes, in every other incarnation, part of the reason why he does what he does is the guilt he has from failing to prevent Uncle Ben's death.
Well, Tom Holland, Peter, never had the great power comes great responsibility speech.
Well, I think Homecoming, they kind of had that, where Tony Stark comes back and asks him for the suit back. I don't know how they're going to move forward. I have a feeling that they're going to look at the error of their ways and try to sit down like adults and really try to work something out. Because I thought the deal that they had was working out great. We had Tom Holland Spidey in the MCU. We had Into the Spider-Verse from Sony, which I rank as probably the best Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, Josh, what do you think about the Spidey situation?
So I think, honestly, they'll work it out. It's just too beneficial for both sides. I think it'll be one of those kind of situations, though, where because the next movie at least, isn't going to come out for a long period of time, they're not rushing it. You know what I mean? I think on Marvel's end, they're going to kind of let their movies come out, the Phase 4 stuff. They're going to focus on that for the time being, make sure those are set up right, things like that. And then when they're ready, they're going to go back to the negotiating table. I don't think they're in a position where they feel like they need to rush things, because outside of Spidey, which they weren't even really making money from in the first place, they have a bunch of other franchises that are making like $1 billion each. So I don't think from Marvel's standpoint financially, they're really all too worried. I just think it's a thing where they don't need it, but they really want it. And for Sony's end, I think they're going to be the ones who eventually are like, whether we're right or wrong, we're going to probably give more than we're going to take, because this situation is a lot more negative on them. Regardless if they're actually in the right, the general public's going to think they're wrong and are going to view them as the bad guys. And all that it does is movies versus help them. So I think they're going to understand that and be like, look, maybe we're not going to do a 50-50 or a 60-40 or a 70-30, but maybe we can do an 80-20, a 90-10, a 85-15, and on top of that, give you more character back to the MCU. So I really wouldn't be surprised if we all of a sudden see Marvel and the MCU adapting some characters previously owned by Sony, or just like how supposedly Marvel has to get permission to use certain Spider-Man related characters for the movies, like they have to get approval from Mysterio, Vulture, things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if in this new deal they work it so that you get more access to secondary Spider-Man characters without needing that approval, if that makes sense. So they don't have to do what they did with Fox, where they swap characters, like they swapped Ego for like Negasonic, Teenage Warhawk, whatever. Like instead of that, they'll just have free reign to use those characters as they want.
Sony does not budge, or if both sides don't budge, then Spider-Man 3 is going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting is a good word to use for it'll stink.
TASM, we gotta resurrect the TASMverse, bring Andrew back. Yeah, I don't know. Drop your thoughts down below. What do you guys think about the whole Spidey situation? Do you guys think they'll work it out? Would you be even willing to pay to see a Sony Spider-Man 3 movie? Or is that just a deal breaker? It is kind of weird how Spider-Man 3 seems to be always plagued Spider-Man movies. TASM never got a third movie. The third Raimi one was bad. This one's all in the mix now. I think that is going to wrap up this episode. Thanks again, guys, for tuning into HNE episode 3. If you want to follow me on social media, you can find me at who's_Nick. James, where can the people find you at?
So on Twitter, I will be on there at Hair Beverage. And you can also find me on my Instagram at Bevs1865.
All right. Josh, where can the people find you at?
Pretty much anywhere where the HN stuff is.
And if you want to ask us questions for the show, you can tweet at HNE Social on Twitter. With all that said, we'll catch you guys next week.